is the Football Monday. Let me fix this bad puppy here a little bit. There we go. Appreciate everybody coming aboard. You have so many choices, and you choose us. And with our new time now from 2 to 6, we really appreciate you guys stepping in with us for the next 4 hours here. We're going to talk with our friend Tone, get his takeaway. That'll be at 3:30. Gary Cobb at 4:30, and you obviously as you come aboard. Before I get going here, I want to throw some love out to our friends at JAKIB Sports here, man. That was awesome on the deck of the New Jersey. See, I'm a geek for military. I'm a complete geek for the military. I've been on the USS Hornet based in Oakland. I've been on the Midway in San Diego. I've been on the Carl Vinson. I've been on so many boats, and to see our show being done at the New Jersey, the most decorated battleship in American wartime history, was awesome. That was sensational. What a great backdrop. You had everything there, man. That was damn cool, man. I really enjoyed watching that show yesterday from the deck. Not taking anything away from our friends at Oceans. Okay? Not taking anything away from Oceans, but I really enjoyed that. All right. I do want to start this off by saying this. There is no question you're 4-0. The Philadelphia Eagles are 4-0, and I think it was also a telling weekend in the National Football League. 4-0 doesn't mean you're the best team in the league. Every idiot that posts that 4-0 stuff, you're idiots. The best record in the NFL traditionally doesn't win the Super Bowl. Has nothing to do with it. Has absolutely nothing to do with it. Plus, I would throw this at you. I had a stat here. Before we get going, and my takeaways from the game, Mac Jones, who was benched, had a 316-yard passing performance against you. He was benched. 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. Kirk Cousins, 364, 70.5% completion percentage. Mac Jones actually was 65% completion percentage. And he may not even be the starter next week. Baker Mayfield, best game by the secondary, 146, 60%, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Sam Howard, 5 starts, 71% completion percentage, 1 touchdown for the Commanders. It's a 7-9 collected group of teams here. Not one of those teams, except maybe the Bucs, will be a playoff contending team. I mean, and plus those quarterbacks, not one of those guys are you going to build your franchise around. Those aren't franchise guys. And they're averaging 280 yards against you in your secondary. They basically eat you up. How about that Sam Howell opening play drive of 14 plays? Right down your throat. Am I right when I say this? Wasn't the first 2 series by Washington 21 plays, 150 in total yards? Where was your defense? Let's get to the takeaways. As I said, you're 4-0 versus 7-9 teams. And I do want to start out with the fact you're 4-0 and you're not playing complete football. Okay? You're not. I don't think this Eagle team is playing its best football. And you're 4-0. That's a positive. That's not a rip. Isaac Osil's wrong every week. Really? I told you that you would get your asses out coached, and it did. That should have been a 31-17 game. The Buffalo Bills kicked the shit out of that team. They kicked the shit out of that team. And it wasn't even close. There were 9 sacks in the game. But because you're JV coaches, I told you, Made it a 28-0 game or 28-20 type of game. And it did. It made it a one-score game. Made it a one-score game because your JV coaches were all over the place in that game. I did not think the coordinators were very good. You kept the team, like Washington, in a game that you shouldn't have. But then again, you're not playing your best ball. Hey, don't start coming on here right now telling me it's a divisional game and it was a short work week. I tried telling you that last week, and you didn't want to hear it. You thought 50-17. You thought 48-10. Remember, I asked you, there's a reason I asked you for them scores. I wrote them down. I got them all here. You guys thought you were going to blow that team out. But because of good coaching, they had an opportunity to win the ball game. Every single game you've been in, outside of maybe the Buck game, a team has had the last opportunity to beat you. Why is that? Well, you're not very good on defense. You're not very good on defense. The Bills destroyed that Washington team. Destroyed them. 14-play drive to open the game. Jalen Hurts played great. 14-play drive, opening drive right down your throat. Where was Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter against the run? The Washington Commanders have one of the worst offensive lines in pro football. That's one of the worst O-lines in all of pro football. Completely outcoached in that game. Chase Young destroyed Jordan Mailata. Destroyed him. Destroyed him. That's the best I've seen Chase Young look in 2 years, obviously. Destroyed him. Had no answers for him. Ran around him. Stood him up. He absolutely kicked his ass. Kicked his ass. There's no question. Situational penalties destroyed the Eagles' opportunities to get that Washington team off the field. For whatever reason. 11 penalties in the ball game. Very undisciplined ball game by the Philadelphia Eagles. Very undisciplined. Best game of the year for Jalen Hurts by far. By the way, I thought the most effective play that he had was that 3rd and long that he got out when he was going down for an 8-yard loss and extended the drive. Then the other plus 20 plays that he had, the 150-plus yarder down the sideline to AJ, some big plays in the ball game. Absolutely. Fletcher Cox was sensational. He was just ragdolling number 72. He was ragdolling him. I mean, ragdolling. Crazy. Reddick was a factor. There is no question DeAndre Swift is an upgrade to Miles Sanders. He is an absolute upgrade. Huge day for Nicholas Morrow. For a guy who didn't even make the team in the opening roster for opening day. That was a big game. Actually, I thought Zach Cunningham was all over the place. And if I'm Sean Desai, I'm not putting Nakobe Dean back in the ball game. No, thank you. I have no interest in that as of right now. He's a depth guy to me. Those guys, when you got something going, why mess with it? The reason that Zach Cunningham and Morrow are playing well is because the guys in front are playing decent. That wasn't their best effort against the run. It's a shitty O-line. And Sam Howell is not an elite guy. It's 5 starts. 5 starts. I will say this. Has to have been one of the worst officiated football games I've seen since I've been covering the Eagles. That was terrible. I mean, seriously, on the brotherly shove, so you're going to start manufacturing penalties against the Eagles just so that you can slow that thing down? That's not football. You want to start doing things that are counterintuitive so that you can maybe stop that play is absolutely obscene. That, I mean, dude, how many Washington Commander guys are offside? I counted 2. If you go back and look at that play, there were 2 Commander guys offsides. Should have been offsetting penalties and do it again. It's just, I mean, if you're going to rig the game in penalties to stop the play, that's not football either. I thought it was really atrocious to play the officiating. I mean, there were phantom calls in that game. Phantom calls. The Bradbury thing was obnoxious. Okay, I didn't get it, man. 11 penalties, as I said, completely undisciplined. Another game where the team had a chance to win the ball game in the final series. And here's the thing I got to say about Ron Rivera. Ron, you have the inferior team. You had them on the road, divisional game. You were the inferior team. You really wanted to go into overtime with Jalen Hurts and the better team and the better place kicker. Shit, there was even question marks on whether your field goal kicker could kick extra points correctly. You got to go for that. No one's going to begrudge you if you don't get it. He goes, we were gassed. So were the Eagle defenders. They were gassed. That was a poor situational. He was conservative for a coach who's traditionally called Riverboat Ron. Okay? I mean, I don't get it. You have to go for that. If you don't get it, okay. You're the inferior team by far. The inferior team. You got to go for it. Missed opportunity by Ron. Eagle linebackers played great. Best game of the year for them. I thought the Washington coaches completely outcoached you in every form and fashion. Eric Bieniemy did a great job with a 5-start guy, and I thought Jack Del Rio did a great job, at least in making it a game. When you have a good defensive line, remember something. You did not blow a team out that was destroyed last week, and you beat them in overtime, and they put a ton of points up on you. So I would say this. Bieniemy did a really nice job. We'll reset everything here. Look, you're 4-0. That is the most important thing. Getting out of the gate and finding ways to win will benefit you in the winter months. Okay? Absolutely. You know, finding more out about your weaknesses now may benefit you later on so that you can try to correct your weaknesses now. The time is now to correct your weaknesses, not in January. You know, you're not playing the best ball. And by the way, any idiot who thinks that because you're 4-0, this is not college football, that you're the best team in the league in San Francisco, we're going to take a look at both the teams and compare both of them. That doesn't necessarily mean you're the best teams. You really haven't played a playoff team. New England's a train wreck right now. That's not a good football team. Dallas destroyed them. And you struggled versus them. Albeit on the road, you had to go there. It's Brady. It's first week, all that. There's game tape on the weaknesses. Dallas had more of an advantage because they had a game plan. Okay? There's nothing wrong with being 4-0. Just like you try to tell me, isn't it funny? People will do this. Sills, it's early. Okay, well, then the 4-0 record doesn't matter, does it? Now, look, I'd rather be them than the Bengals. For sure. Bills are playing the best ball. They destroyed a team you struggled against and destroyed that Miami Dolphin team that hung 70 on someone. Josh Allen's a machine right now. You're not beating that guy with that secondary you have. You're not. He ain't Sam Howell. He ain't Mac Jones. He's a different dude. You're not beating him with that defense. That defense, hey, thank God Jalen played good. Honestly, thank God he played well. Because if he doesn't, you lose that game probably by 10. If he doesn't play well, you lose by 10. Okay? Facts. And by the way, your offensive line, when it comes to pass protection, you're giving up 3-4 sacks a game now? Boy, I'll say this to you, man. Out of the gate so far this year, you're not very good in pass protection. And you're just not. I mean, that's an overhyped part of that O-line. You're not a very good pass protection team. You're giving 3-4 sacks up a game. Do you think that's good as an elite group? I don't think so. Let me throw this at you, too. Hurts is still a one-target guy. Let me ask you what you think of these numbers here out of the gate so far, just in the last 2 weeks with A.J. Brown. So last week, he had 40% of the targets. Yesterday, he had 38% of the targets. I mean, is it really that much of an emphasis that you take out of the game, Devontae and Goddard? You're not going to win like that. Hey, Dallas is not going to win because you know why? Dallas doesn't have a number 2. They think they do. They don't. Even in that game against New England, dude, San Francisco has a number 2. And get this, that's Deebo Samuel. Ayuk's playing like a 1. Dallas doesn't. Brandon Cooks, Michael Gallup, really? They're like Quez Watkins guys. Maybe Cooks, I don't know. I don't see a true number 2 in Dallas. And your quarterback is not Josh Allen. He's not good enough. And it's funny, people go like this. Tua was exposed. Tua played the Bills. You're not comparing the Bills to the Commanders, are you? How dumb can you be? You're really going to compare the Bills to the Commanders? That's a whole different animal there. Absolutely not remotely close. Not remotely close. Not remotely close. And I'll say it one more time to you. I am not playing Nakobe Dean as a starter. Not happening. Not happening. Okay? Not happening. Until one of these guys starts stepping back, that guy's a second teamer. I'm not messing with the chemistry of what looks like it's working now. That was one of the better parts. Your defensive line against the run gave up more yards against a team that can't run the ball. And they put up 34 points or 31 points on you. That's not a very good O-line. It's an awful O-line. Let's go by the numbers now. Obviously, OT, 34-31. Hey, you know what? I will say this. Michael Clay, special teams, the last couple games. Okay. Yeah. That could be turning the corner. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. Hey, from now on, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start answering you guys here systematically, but I'm not going to get into a back and forth with idiots. Just not. Okay? You see it through a different lens than I do. Deal with it. First down, Commanders 26, Eagles 23. Eagles gave up 107 yards rushing. 67 yards came from running backs. 40 yards came from Sam Howell just making plays. The real issue wasn't third down. Was real. was third down passing defense. Yeah, but that 107 was all they needed to keep play action going for third down. The reason third down was effective is because they had 27 rushing attempts. That's the reason third down was effective. If they don't get that 107, okay, if they don't get that 107, what do the Eagles do? They pin their ears. There's not a chance of third down. You're constantly at 3rd and 8. That 107 was the most important statistic in the game for the Commanders because they were also doing it at 4 yards plus a clip. That has to keep your backers tight and keep you honest. That's why the secondary was open. That's why they were able to go 14 plays. That 107 was more critical than the 290 he threw for. Kept him in 3rd and short, and it's not so much they kept pounding away with the 27 attempts. It was the fact they were getting 4-4 a carry. The run defense wasn't as stout. That's what kept Sam Howell in that game. Sam Howell went toe for toe with Jalen Hurts in that game. And that was that guy's 5th start. And that's coaching. That's coaching. Jalen Hurts had to play like that because Bieniemy had taken all the bullshit that Sam Howell had gone through with the 9 sacks against the Bills, the lack of a running game, quick passes, out passes. They did everything correct. Everything correct in that game. Everything correct. That 107 was so important for them to be able to get that. It was like 4 yards a carry, 3.9, something like that. That's all they needed. Total plays. Here's what also kept them in it. I don't know, Tone, if this is an exact stat here, but this may be the first game that the opponent had more plays than the Eagles. How average 6-7 carries, yards per carry, running backs average 3. As a team, they averaged 3.8. I had 3.9. Okay? So critical because it kept them honest. You don't have to rush the ball for 350 yards. They basically took a blueprint from last year's game. This has to be one of the only games this year that the opponent had more plays. They had 74 plays to 67. You don't realize what that means because what was it? 21 plays? What was it? 21 plays? Tone, Gary's all set for 4:30. 21 plays for 150 yards in the first 2 series for the Commanders. Eagles had 415 in total yards. The Commanders had 365. Get this. This is how you beat Philly right here. You had 10 total drives. That's it. Okay? You had 10 total drives. What does that basically mean? That basically means like you have 3 drives a quarter. That's it. That's how you beat them. Okay? That's how you beat them. Limit their series. Yes, you're right. The Commanders ran 74 plays, Eagles 67. Eagles also lost time of possession. Commanders had the ball 35-07, Eagles 30. This is a remedy out of last year. This is exactly how they beat the Eagles last year. Ron Rivera has put a blueprint up with lesser talent on how to beat you. Eagles had 104 yards rushing. Jesus criminy. Are you telling me that the Eagles were dominated by the Washington Commanders front 4? Sure looks it. Sure looks it. 100 yards for that group who's been killing teams. Okay? Just remember this. There were no turnovers in this game. No turnovers. And this thing came down to a decision and a field goal in overtime. You understand? This game came down to a decision and a field goal in OT. Now, I will give that to you, David. I do think that, hey, Chase Young for the first time looked like rookie Chase Young. He did. And when you get him, Montez, Allen, the rest of that group playing like that, that's a formidable D-line. Absolutely. Hey, let me think. The Jets D-line, I don't think, hey, does anybody think the Jets and Washington, do you think Dallas has a better D-line than those two guys? I don't know. I don't think Dallas has a better D-line than those two. You think Dallas has a better D-line than Washington and the Jets? I don't believe that. I do not believe that. Okay? I do not. I think Dallas is good. Okay? I mean, that's a formidable group, and it played out that way. They got pressure on the quarterback, too. Young destroyed Mulata. Okay? Destroyed him. Illegal procedures, there must have been 3 of them. Got around him for a sack. Absolutely destroyed him. Okay? How many people believe that Mulata got beat by Chase Young? Look at these guys. No, he didn't? Really? You don't think that Chase Young killed Mulata in that game? Wow. See? This is why I don't get into a conversation with people who don't see the truth. Jordan Mulata was destroyed in that game. He was terrible in pass protection. He was awful. Okay? It's the best I've seen Chase Young look. Okay? He got killed in that game. Penalties. Undisciplined football game by the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, some of those were shitty officiating plays, too. Calm down with the overreaction. Hey, can you put the first one up there? At some point, we have to give the other coaches credit. I did. I said to completely outcoached them. Calm down with the overreaction. Sam Howell is 1-0 versus Dallas with Dak in the meaningful game as well. This game wasn't that meaningful. No response by me on that. Undisciplined football game. Undisciplined football game. Again, timely drive continuing plays. Okay? That's coaching. Along with player accountability. And shitty officiating. There's no doubt. Worst officiated football game I've seen in 3 years covering the Eagles. That was awful. Awful. Awful officiating. Turnover 0. Time of possession was owned by the Commanders. Here's the remedy to beat Philly if you have one of the elite teams. More first downs. Limit their offensive plays and series. Have some type of rushing game, and you can beat them. Hey, let me say this to you. Kansas City is more beatable than Philadelphia is. I watched that win last night by them against the Jets. They're unbelievably beatable. I think Philadelphia can beat that team. I don't think Kansas City's good. I'll take that back. I don't think they're great. I think they're good. I do not believe Kansas City is a great football team. They got a great quarterback and some really good pieces, but that's a very beatable team. The Eagles, on the other hand, they're not as easy to beat. They're not as easy to beat. Because you know why? Here's something that Hurts has that Mahomes doesn't have. The ability to extend plays. That's the difference. Is he a better quarterback than Mahomes? No. But Mahomes' ability to extend plays, if the passing game's not working, you saw it play out last night. Okay? Pacheco's a decent back, but the fear is in the running of the quarterback. When Hurts was in the pocket, and they had him for an 8-yard sack, and he takes off for a 16-yard gain, I sat there and went like this. That is the biggest back-breaking play of the game. They had him dead for rights. They had him, and he breaks out and he goes up the middle. That's the Jalen Hurts of a year ago. I saw that stupid bullshit sliding again. It's obnoxious, and it's affecting the offense. They have completely screwed this kid up. The coaches, let this guy go play his game. Take the damn reins off him. It's enough. How many times are we going to see Jalen? He knows what to do in open space. Making him get down the way they're making him get down is making that offense tentative. He is a dual threat guy. When he breaks out in the open like that, he is so effective. I think the coaches have put reins on this kid. And when he's completing passes, when he starts completing those passes and he breaks out into the perimeter when his legs, that's when he is Jalen Hurts. That's the first part of the game that I saw Jalen Hurts 2022. But then there were times in the game he got down. He slid down. Yell goes, they want him to throw first. I want him to be Jalen Hurts first. Dude, when Hurts plays Jalen football, he's not playing Jalen football right now. That's a coaching philosophy decision. Seals, do you think the Eagles won a trap game or just another divisional game? Probably both, David. David, by the way, they did what it took to win. It was a short work week. I told you guys all this, David. It was a short work week, okay? It's a divisional game. You're going against better coaches, really good coaches. This was either going to be a 31-17 game or it was going to be a 28-20 game. Turned out to be an OT kick game and a decision that Rivera, in my opinion, should have went for the game winner. Okay? I mean, why are you Can I tell you what they're doing? You're right, Yale. Do you know what they're doing? They're opening up the passing. They're not really opening up the passing game. That's not a true statement. Okay, I understand that. Arguing at work with coworkers. Listen, they want to expand the passing game and limit the RPO and the R and the RPO. You're limiting Hurts. That pre-sliding and getting down and him being cognizant of not gaining extra yards, dude, I get preserving the guy. I totally get it. And that 21-1 has won you nothing. 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 This is not about consolation prizes. Congrats on Tub T and Cowboys. And let me know. I'll get a UN translator, Duncan, on what that means. Nothing, Roland. What have you won? Admiration? What have you won? What have you won? What has that record brought you? They need to involve Goddard. They can't involve Goddard and Smith. Here, let's go to the numbers here with that. Okay? Sam Howell played right alongside of Jalen Hurts in this ball game. For his fifth start, he hung right in there. Someone says winning culture. You've had a winning culture since 2000. Devontae had a good game? We're going to talk about it. How could somebody have half the targets and you limit the other players in targets and think you're going to be able to beat the better teams in the playoffs? 49ers. Oh, no, I'm not doing the 49ers. I don't want to do that one yet. I want to go by. Let's look at the game numbers here for the players in the game with the Eagles Commanders. Hurts 25 of 37, 319, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers, 112-3. Best game he's played all year. Sam Howell, 5th start, 71% completion percentage in the game. This guy was completing passes at will on your defense. At will. At will. 29 of 41, 290, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, 98-6. Not bad for a 5th start for a kid. I mean, Eric Bieniemy had him playing almost step for step in the passing game with Jalen Hurts. I mean, do you understand the guys you're playing so far? One guy, the first opening week guy threw for 316 versus you, and he was benched yesterday. You played against Cousins and Mayfield and Sam Howell. And these guys all, hey, and you know what? I think I wrote down also what these guys have all done against you guys in the opening weeks here. All in the 68s. Your pass defense is terrible. Hey, when someone starts bringing up Avonte Maddox and all these guys being injured, welcome to the NFL. Welcome to the NFL, guy. The war of attrition is part of what will always dictate who wins the Super Bowl. You think the Jets? Are you expecting the Jets to cry? Big Sills, continue with the facts, no excuses. Look. You can't make an excuse up for the fact they're 4-0. This is no excuses. This is my observation. DeAndre Swift, 56 yards, important yards, 14 carries. Brian Robinson, 45 on 14 carries, 3-2. The 3-2 was so crucial to keep play action and third down going for the Commanders. A.J. Brown, 9 catches, 175 yards. He cried enough. Had to make sure he got all the targets. 2 touchdowns, 19-4. No question. Great game. At the expense of others. Devontae, 7 catches, 78. He's lucky. Can I tell you this about Devontae Smith? A.J. Brown is so lucky that A.J. plays with a guy like Devontae Smith, that he doesn't bitch and moan and cry and throw a tantrum like other wide receivers would be throwing tantrums about the lack of targets compared to his targets. He is absolutely lucky. Okay? He is absolutely lucky. Okay? A.J. Brown gets 40% of the targets weekly. Last 2 weeks, it's been 40. 40 last week, 38 this week. He's lucky he plays with a guy like that. He's totally lucky. McLaurin had 8 catches for 86. Curtis Samuel had 7 for 51. They completely make an effort. I mean, Goddard's targets were what? 4? So you have a top 5 tight end with 4 targets. Underutilized. It seemed that McLaurin had a big day. Yeah, you know why it seemed that? Because he made third down catches. That's why it seemed like he had a big day. Because he made third down completion to extend drives. They were critical plays in the game that he had that kept the drive going. The 175 yards that A.J. Brown had, you still were in a decision where you could have lost the game if the coach goes for it. And you lost by an overtime field goal. Had no bearing, really. And a blowout. He had a good game. He needed to. Or you would have lost. Nobody really had. Hey, do you think anybody on Washington had a big game? Who had a big game? Who on Washington had a big game? I'm missing it. McLaurin, 86, 8 catches. Just pretty much Mustavante. Samuel, 7 catches, 51. Robinson, 45 yards. Howell had 290. Tone says Eric Bieniemy did. Doc goes, what's the point? You probably played as good as you could possibly play on offense against the Commanders. That's the point. That wasn't a great game. How about this? Who do you think feels better about themselves coming out of that game? The Eagles or the Commanders? Who do you think had a – who do you think feels better at moving forward coming out of that game? Eagles or the Commanders? What you guys, 10-point favorites, 9-point favorites in that thing? If I'm the Eagles, I feel like this. Lucky on defense. Offense, signs of possible things. Signs of things. Those are my takeaways. By the way, let me say this. That stuff that they're doing with Hurts, they need to stop it. He's getting poor advice. You have JV. I'm going to get to the coordinators here in a minute. This fundamental decision to have him protect himself out there, I get it, man. I get it. You know what it looks? Awkward. It just looks awkward. It looks awkward. Funny, it's crazy when people go like this, no moral victories. How many people in here take victory laps off of Hurts' performance in the Super Bowl? Yeah, keep changing the sticks. It looks awkward. I think they're holding him back. I do. I think they're holding him back. I mean, it just looks like it's conservative. They're trying to make him something he is completely not. That guy is not throwing for $4,000 this year. But it's not important. Only in the minds of fantasy football people. Thank you, Chris. Only in the minds of fantasy football dudes. I feel the organization had a preseason and predetermined mentality. Hey, Jalen, when you're in open space, let's not take any contact. Dude, he can get hurt more in the pocket than he can. Remember what was it Phil Simms? Remember what Phil Simms said? You have more control of where and what kind of contact you're going to take when you're in open field running. And I never thought of it that way. Tony and I both went like this. Holy shit. You know, he's right. You have more control of that in open field than you do in the pocket when a guy can roll you up from behind. Okay? Now you're coordinators. Your defensive coordinator was schooled by Eric Bieniemy. That was a well-contrived game plan by Eric Bieniemy. What's on the point? Wide receivers, 35%. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Thanks, Fat. Appreciate it very much. Targets, another 40 distributed through. Tight ends, seem standard. One guy getting all the targets and your tight end's a non-factor. Your tight end this year, in a month of the season, has been a non-factor. A guy you're paying $15 million to is a non-factor. He's a non-factor. Why have him on the field? He's a non-factor. You're not going to win a Super Bowl with one wideout. You're going to have to spread that thing around. My opinion. Hey, we'll see how it plays out. We'll see. Personally, I don't believe that the way that team's playing right now, you'll never get there. So it's irrelevant. Your OC and DC. Brian Johnson, his feel for the game is robotic. I'm gonna put some adjectives out here to describe these guys. It's almost like you graduated college, you know what to do, but you don't have the experience to do it. Eric Bieniemy knew his quarterback can't sit in the pocket on a 7 or 8 step drop and withstand the pressure. Do you know what and how the offensive line handled the Eagle D-line? Eric Bieniemy handled it. That wasn't anything the Commanders did. You're making it sound like the Commanders played a great game against the Eagle D-line. Eric Bieniemy had a great game. 3-step drop. 1, 2, 3, out. 1, 2, 3, out. 1, 2, 3, out. 1, 2, 3, out. Those shitty cushions, Bieniemy knew it. There was going to be complete passes all over the field. He was not going to really get hit. Now, because they don't have a good line, and you watch what Fletcher was doing to those guys, Eric Bieniemy is the reason that it looked like the Washington Commanders' O-line played great with different blocking schemes and all that. It was Bieniemy. He went quick step, timing passes. Why did he do that? Because they play that weirdo off a defense where they line guys 10 yards off the ball. You had a guy who was sacked 9 times. Why didn't you get up in those guys' grill and play press coverage? That would have allowed that D-line to eat more. Okay? Brian Johnson had one of the worst play calling moments I've seen. You're 3rd and 11, and you decide to run the ball with Gainwell in the red zone. That is such a shitty feel for where you are in situational play calling and a personnel decision. It is so you don't know where can't be analytics. So I'm trying to figure out what that is. And by the way, let me throw something at you too. Do you remember on that play when it was, what was that one play? Tone, correct me if I'm wrong. Do you remember on the play it was like 3rd and 1? And they tried some sort of stupid tush play, Washington. Okay? And it was like 3rd and 1. And what they didn't get it, and there was a penalty for holding. So you know what they did? They made it 3rd and 6, still a manageable down on 3rd and 6. I would much rather have had it 4th and 1 and make them make a decision if they're going to kick it there or go for it on 4th and 1. then 3rd and 6. You should have declined a penalty there, put them in a 4th down position, make them have to make a do or die play. Okay? Sirianni should have made them make, you're the lesser team. Would they have gone for it on 4th down? Probably. But you would have got the ball there. If you stop them, you end the fucking game. Instead, what do? You basically gave them a second chance to get the 3rd down, which they completed because you're playing off the ball. I was like this. Make them go on 4th down. I'd rather have you go 4th and 1.5. That's what it was. So they take the penalty. They give them another shot at it late in the game. And you know your secondary's been giving up yards. Why didn't you make the lesser team have to make the tougher decision? I'm sitting there watching this. The Eagles just gave them another chance to get the completion, and they did. That's situational play calling and coaching. And I'm sitting there going like this. So they failed getting the 1st down because they couldn't get the ball across the 1.5 to get the 1. So that's what they did. They took the penalty, pushed them back, and it was 3rd and 6 is still manageable, especially when you're playing 10 yards off the ball. I mean, that is just a prime example of your coordinators. I know you saw that. I know you saw that. You gave them a second life to tie that game up. I'm like, wow. Dude, if they miss it, you take over right there. And he's got half the field to go down and kick another field goal or a TD and end the thing. Dude, you make the lesser teams have to make the tougher decisions. That's shitty coaching. Penalties and poor coaching decisions wrecked the game. Thank God the Eagles didn't turn the ball over. Thank God Jalen played his best game, or you lose by 10. Press with safeties? I've never seen that in my entire life. I'm talking your corners, jackass. I mean, there were so many poor decisions. Hey, and please, I'm going to say this to you, man. What is this love affair with Kenneth Gainwell? He is the lesser of any offensive football player you have. Get this. You want to hear something crazy? I'd rather play Rashad Penny than him. I'd rather play Rashad Penny than him. I don't get it. You're coaching. Look, every single team that you played against so far, you've been outcoached in. Corners need to play press. We destroyed them coming out of the second half playing press. Officiating kept a lot of drives going to yesterday. I said that to you, my friend. I thought, get this. I thought there were some situational poor penalties. And I also thought that there was awful officiating. Worst officiated game I see the Eagles been in since I've been talking about the Eagles for 3 years. Absolutely terrible. Terrible. By the way, A.J. Brown, grow up. You're in a bitching match with a rookie from Ole Miss because you guys are talking about your college days. That guy is so immature. You see it numerous times in his behavior. His behavior on the sideline, he's not quite T.O., but he is a distraction at times. He cost them a game where you gave the other team an opportunity to beat you. And if they would have lost that game, that would have been on A.J. Brown. But the field goal kicker bailed him out. And get this. If McLaurin gets that toe down, A.J. Brown's an immature child. I don't get enough touches. I don't get enough targets. Bitching with a rookie corner. Dude, when you're the king, you know it. You don't have to tell people about it. You just know it. Crazy. A.J. Brown is a baby. He is an absolute baby. Grow up, guy. Grow up. It's unbecoming of a star player. Eagles were fighting against several forces in that game. Poor coaching decisions, poor officiating, poor situational football penalties. I can go on. Thank God the Eagles are more talented. That's what we said, remember, Tone, on Friday. You're the more talented team. This is a 31-17 game or a 28-20 game. It turned out to be a decision in a field goal game. Corners need to play press. We destroyed them coming out in the second half, playing press. Officiating kept a lot of drives going yesterday. Correct. And poor the situational play call. Boy, I'll tell you, Joe Theismann talked about this last week. Your situational play calling, which with Brian Johnson, you guys were fighting me, and I fought you a little bit on your coordinator and blaming. Dude, I think they've got the range. Usually I disagree with some things you say, but today you're right on the money. Thank you, Green. Green, if it wasn't for Jalen, you lose by 10. By 10. Jalen didn't turn the ball over. He ran more. Like I said, can I tell you, it wasn't the 54-yard pass down the sideline that made me look like he was Jalen Hurts. Purdy was spectacular. We're going to talk about the differences between the 49ers and the Eagles, two best teams in the NFC, here in a minute. It wasn't that 54-yard pass down the sidelines. To me, it was that 3rd and 11 where they had him dead for rights in the backfield. He breaks out on that third. I went like this. Of all the plays he made, he extends that play and breaks the back of Jack Del Rio with that play. You give up the 54-yarder. Shit, man, even when you gave up the touchdown with 1:43 in the game, they still came back and scored on you. When Hurts broke away like that, where they had him for an 8-yard loss, you were like this. Holy shit, man. Seriously, I was like this. I'm watching that and I go, backbreaker. Backbreak. That's Jalen Hurts right there. That was Jalen Hurts. That was him. Backbreaking on a 3rd and long, running it in the RPO or escaping. And I thought he was, I thought there were times in the game he was exceptionally accurate, and I thought there were times in the game where he was all over the place throwing the ball. He wasn't accurate as much in the first half as he was in the second half. I thought he was 50-50 in the first half. Second half, I thought he was better because I think he knew they needed him more. Okay? Okay? Sills, who stinks more, Desai or Johnson? But here, I'm going to take a time out here in a second. By the way, my boy Tone's going to jump on with us at 3:30 Eastern time, and then Gary Cobb from Fox 29, as he always does at 4:30 Eastern. So you combine Nick Sirianni's decision-making on some of the 4th down stuff. Then you put the coordinators in there. The Washington Commander coaches had a great day. They did everything they could to do the one thing that was the most important thing. Give their team a chance to win. You know what teams are doing to the Eagles right now that you didn't have happen to you last year? That's kind of shocking. Every team's had a chance to beat you. Maybe outside the Bucs. Okay? Maybe outside the Bucs. Chris goes losing? No. Hey, Chris, you're not winning a Super Bowl playing like that. We're going to take a look at the 49ers versus the Eagles here in a second. Okay? By the way, best team in football right now, I'd say the Bills. Some would go like this. They lost to the Jets. The Jets have maybe the best defense in the league. Yeah, you're not playing better than the Bills right now. You're not. Again, 4-0 doesn't mean you're the best team in the league. That's like telling me Boise State or Wake Forest at 5-0 is better or as good as Georgia at 5-0. That's your premise. Because your record dictates that. You think you're as good. So let me ask you this. If a Southeastern Conference team like Alabama, who's 4-1, let's just take a Big Ten team. Iowa's 4-1. You think Iowa's just as good as Bama? Where do you get that notion from? Where do you get that from? That doesn't mean that. The record dictates home field and division. Okay? It does. Each week is its own situation. We'll see. Again. So, like, who is better? And get this. In a lot of people's notions, you know what people would say? You should have just given the Super Bowl trophy to the 17-0 New England Patriots instead of the 10-6 Eagles or 10-6 Giants, right? They were 17-0. Seals, they were 17-0. Yeah, 10-16 beat them. Your negative juju helps us. You go to Dallas, they lost. You go to Miami, they lost. This week, you go to San Fran. All right, hour number 2 is coming up. Don't forget our good friends at Hooters. We appreciate those guys so much. We love you guys. The 40th anniversary of our great friends at Hooters. Look, Monday Night Football tonight, great place for you to go in and experience what I've been talking about. 7 locations in the Northeast area. All you have to do is go to northeasthooters.com. That's northeasthooters.com. Do me a favor. Go in there. Maybe you don't want to go in. You can also go to hooterstogo.com to find yourself some of the great specials that we have. If you don't go in, and when you do go in, you'll understand. Tuesdays by 10 wings. Get 10 boneless free. Absolutely awesome. Wing Wednesday, a 40-year tradition, folks. I got to tell you, man, no doubt about it. This has been a great tradition for 40 years. 1983, the year the place was founded, that you have all those wings you can eat for free. Kids eat for free on Saturdays. That's northeasthooters.com. That's northeasthooters.com. By the way, when we come back for hour number 2, I'm going to announce our winners from last week on our gift certificates with our great friends at Hooters. We'll do that. Number 2 hour is coming up on our new hours here, 2 to 6 Eastern time with JAKIB Sports. Hour 2 on the flip side. Keep it here on the National Football Show.
Football and Hooters, the perfect pair.